Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back, or welcome to the Got Riff podcast. My name is Travis. I am a metalhead and rocker of all sort of types of fan. I like pretty much all of it. And that's what this podcast is about. I'm just going to be discussing whatever I feel like within the rock and metal spectrum. It could be news, it could be album reviews, it could be something else entirely. And that's kind of what this episode is going to be. So let's just get straight into it. Over the last few months, I've noticed an interesting phenomenon within the metal community, and I guess by proxy, social media in general, is that it looks like Gen Z, aka my generation, has discovered the sludge metal band CROWBAR and made them much more popular than they were before. Lots of memes have been made about the band and their music. Their music has been used in edits for fictional characters, and their listenership has grown at an alarming rate, like how bands in the modern metal/modern rock space like Sleep Token and Bad Omens have, after they've had tracks go viral on social media in the past few years as well. This episode is all about how this surge in CROWBAR's popularity on social media and streaming services came to be in the first place, if this momentum will keep up at all, and possibly if it is a sign that younger folks like myself are yearning for this type of sound in their metal preferences, or just music preferences in general. I mean, this day and age, you don't have to be a metalhead in order to get into heavy stuff, so yeah. But first, before we do that, let's go over a SparkNotes version of the band's history. CROWBAR was formed in 1990 by vocalist and guitarist Kirk Windstein in New Orleans. They have since gone through a number of lineup changes, but Windstein is the sole constant member of the band. The band formed their signature sound by fusing doom metal with hardcore punk, which has now been dubbed sludge metal by fans. As of March of 2026, they have released 12 studio albums, with their most recent being Zero and Below in 2022. They are one of the most well-known bands in the sludge metal genre, even before their most recent surge in popularity, alongside acts like Acid Bath, Down, whom Kirk Windstein is a member of as well, and I Hate God, who has also shared members with CROWBAR in the past, most notably drummer Jimmy Bower, who has played guitar in CROWBAR in the past. Now that we're sort of up to speed, how in the actual fuck has a sludge metal band over 3 decades into their career blown up so fast and dramatically in 2026? Other rock and metal bands from their era blowing up make sense, as Deftones' recent rise can be due to their use of other popular rock subgenres such as nu metal and shoegaze, driving in fans of those other genres to check out the band. And a band like Creed's recent comeback can be attributed to millennial nostalgia, people reappraising the quality of their music, as they were considered one of the most hated bands in the post-grunge genre, even despite being one of the most popular, but are now widely celebrated by even former haters of the band. These two bands in particular, Creed and Deftones, have also achieved mainstream commercial success before their recent rises in popularity too, which is something CROWBAR really hasn't had, at least not to the scale of bands like Creed and Deftones, or even newer bands like Sleep Token or Bad Omens. Sure, their music videos were played on MTV back in the day, and they also made an appearance on Beavis and Butthead, which was a pretty big deal from the time, from what I understand. And their connection to Pantera has surely brought them to a sizable audience, but not anything like this, like what's going on now. So, to find this out and to get some more fan insight on the matter, I did post a thread on Reddit on r/crowbar to get fans of the band and I guess by proxy the entire the sludge metal subgenre, and just get their opinions on how they feel about this. And the thread actually like popped off, which I was really surprised to see. I kind of figured, usually whenever I post on Reddit, I get maybe like one or two comments and like I get a handful of upvotes, but nothing like this. This conversation got like a ton of comments and way more upvotes than I was expecting, which was exactly what I was looking for, and I knew it would make for some really cool commentary on this episode. So thanks to all of those on our CROWBAR that have participated, and I've distilled the general consensus of as to how the band has gotten so popular within 4 main points. And of course, there's other, some people commented like, oh, because the music is good, which I mean, duh, we know that already. But these are the 4 things that I think make the biggest difference in how popular CROWBAR has gotten. First one is TikTok fat guy memes. So I'm not on TikTok myself to verify this. I barely use the app. But if you're listening to this episode, there's a chance that you have. You've seen probably some sort of meme about CROWBAR's music either making you fat or just being a band for fat guys in general. And obviously memes like that have caught on like a house on fire. Even people that aren't metalheads have heard these memes and seen these memes and think they're funny, and just the joke spreads further and further. So, people don't even need to know the name Crowbar to be like, oh, that's the band that like fat guys lift to in the gym. And number two. This was a surprising one for me. There's actually a pretty decent crossover between sludge metal and hardcore music. Hardcore punk has also had a huge revival in the past few years, and even bands that are not traditional hardcore, like Frozen Soul and Sanguisugabogg, both of whom are death metal, take a lot of influence from hardcore and often play the same shows as hardcore bands. I mean, shit, Dying Fetus, one of the most popular and influential bands in death metal and brutal death metal, sometimes has deathcore bands as tour openers, and they frequently play hardcore festivals and shows. Sanguisugabogg, who I mentioned earlier, also covered To Build a Mountain at a festival performance last year at Tied Down, which is a more hardcore punk-oriented festival. Number three is that new fans maybe relate to the music because of current events. This is not to get political or anything, but I mean, you don't really have to pay attention to any politics or world events to know that the world is incredibly chaotic, and the internet and social media put a magnifying glass on every single horrible thing that happens because, well, people engage with it, and thus it spreads even further, and the general feeling of people kind of tends to go down, which makes sense. And since Crowbar's music isn't exactly the happiest out there, a lot of people can find that the music itself is able to channel something that a lot of people connect with in modern times. And, this atmospheric, melancholic music, I think people are just able to identify with those feelings in general. So there's that. And number four, this might be kind of a no shit moment, but I felt like it deserved a mention. Music accessibility is easier and more plentiful than ever. Back before streaming and digital downloading was the primary way you listened to music, you were at the mercy of the radio and stores that had physical music in stock to find new stuff, if I could speak. And thus you discovered a lot less new music unless you specifically went out of the way to buy CDs and records from bands you have never heard of. Like, say you walked into a store and you'd never heard of the album before in your life, but you thought the album cover was cool, so you took a gamble. You spent 10 or 15 bucks and bought it, and whether it was good or not was you had to figure out. Now that pretty much every song ever released is available at the touch of a button, people are finding new music at an insane rate and are likely to give something they may have passed on in the record store a chance because they can listen to the album for free and see if they like it. You don't need to know anything about heavy metal in order to know about Crowbar and music nowadays. A lot of people are hearing Repulsive and its splendid beauty in the background of memes on social media, and they might think the riff is pretty cool, and thus the journey into the sludge can begin. And by proxy, all of heavy metal and hard rock music, if they end up liking it. Now, I think the ultimate test to see how this will affect Crowbar's popularity long term is the size of venues they will play in the future and how many tickets they will sell / how many dates sell out. In these days, streaming numbers don't really mean anything if nobody actually wants to go see this particular artist perform live. And there's a lot of mainstream artists in other genres that play smaller venues than what you might think. I mean, to use a personal example, last summer I saw Ghost and Shinedown at a 20,000 seat arena that also has acts like Sabrina Carpenter and Tyler the Creator play. Obviously, Tyler the Creator and Sabrina Carpenter are massive mainstream artists that most people know, and, thus not as many people know about Shinedown or Ghost, even if they are incredibly popular bands in rock. They don't have that same mainstream pull as those two big ones, but they play the same size arena. So, of course, that could also just play into a thing about like how more people in rock are willing to show up to shows and stuff like that. But that's a conversation for another time. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the online virality and the memes will play into Crowbar's long-term success. If these memes and stuff like that can propel them into playing larger venues than what they're playing now, and having more dates sell out, because like like bands like how bands like Sleep Token are able to sell out arena tours in like 10 minutes because like people have heard their songs on TikTok and now everybody wants to go see them live. It'll be interesting to see if something similar happens to Crowbar. Maybe not on as wide of a scale as Sleep Token, but it would be really cool to be honest. And before we go, I figured I would give you, in case you've never listened to Crowbar before a day in your life and you want to check out their music, here's 5 songs that I think you should start out with. Number 1 is Repulsive in Its Splendid Beauty. This is the song that went viral in the first place, and I think it's a good starting point for somebody that wants to know what the band is all about. Doomy, melancholic, and heavy as all hell. Number 2 is All I Had, I Gave. This one shows off more of their punk and hardcore influence and is one that I think fans of those genres as well as groove metal will have fun with. Number 3 is I Am the Storm. This is another fast-paced track for their standard. I mean, it's not tech death here. It's from their 2016 album, The Serpent Only Lies, so it's a somewhat decent representation of what the band sounds like now, even though that album is like now a decade old. Number 4 is one of my favorites, Planets Collide. If you like Typo Negative, you'll dig this one a lot. It's slow, atmospheric, like it almost feels like you're floating in space, and it is one of their most popular tracks too, so, you know, if you ask somebody about this song that's into the band, they will probably have a lot to say about it. And my last song that I recommend you check out if you've never listened to Crowbar before is Walk with Knowledge Wisely. This song starts with a kick-ass drum fill and follows it with a riff that's heavier than tungsten. It's also got some pretty uplifting lyrics too about rising above what's keeping you down and using knowledge gained from the past to keep yourself moving forward. So those are my 5 songs. If you made it this far, thank you so very much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to me. If you like what you heard, feel free to check out my Instagram at GotRiffMedia. You'll see a lot more like playlists, memes, other podcast stuff, and whatever, concert photos, whatever I may feel like posting any given moment. So, yeah, that's how you keep in touch with me. Once again, thank you all for listening, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.